Welcome, everyone, to the Wave Breaker podcast, brought to you by the Center of Excellence for Marine Manufacturing and Technology. Find out more about our work at washingtonmaritimecareers.org. I'm Ann Avery with the Center of Excellence, and it is my pleasure today to welcome Jenny Johnson, founder of Maritime Inclusion Partners. Jenny is a maritime professional and entrepreneur. You can learn more about Maritime Inclusion Partners by going to the website maritimeinclusionpartners.com. That's Maritime Inclusion Partners, all one word, .com. Jenny, welcome, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Hi, Ann. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I think the first thing is to tell us about Maritime Inclusion Partners, what it is and what it does.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to share the kind of work that we're doing over here. So at Maritime Inclusion Partners, we offer consulting services to maritime organizations that help them create an inclusive, safe, and sustainable mariner workforce. Our expertise lies in identifying and overcoming systemic and cultural obstacles that hinder diverse and sustainable recruitment, hiring, education, and retention.
And on that, we know that internationally the industry is more diverse than it is in the United States. It's not a knock on anything. It just is what it is. Can you share a little bit more about that? Some of the challenges that we face as we look at trying to diversify the North American maritime industry?
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest things that is really preventing from that the kind of diversity that we would like to replicate that we see out in the rest of the world is education about the amazing careers that anyone can have in the maritime industry. So getting the word out, which sounds super simple, is really not as easy as it sounds. The maritime industry has their own language. It's very tight knit, close knit kind of industry, and so branching out beyond our immediate circles who tend to look exactly like we do, and bringing in different individuals and educating them on the maritime industry, both at sea and ashore, is one way that we can start to break down those barriers. And then two is supporting individuals financially who may not be able to go to a four-year maritime school and maybe want to take a different kind of route, like I did, and maybe be a hawse piper and maybe work limited tonnage or do something different, making it a little bit easier for them to get those credentials and have those careers.
I love what you're saying, and I think there's an assumption that one would have to go to a four-year maritime academy in order to get into the industry or go through an apprenticeship. And in reality, there are many different ways to come into the industry. And you just mentioned part of your journey as a hawse piper. For those who do not know, can you talk about what a hawse piper is? It's an unusual word and not part of the everyday vocabulary, I think, for the average person.
Yeah, sure. So a hawse pipe is where an anchor chain lives on a vessel, and that's how the anchor gets lowered and brought back up, is through this tube, right? And so it's kind of a proverbial climbing of the ladder. And so individuals who jump into a maritime career, usually kind of like by accident, and find themselves navigating, pun intended, the pathway of moving and getting like a officer's license at some level is considered a hawse piper, as opposed to someone who was able to go to a college and get their credentials that way. So yeah, I went the non-college route, and so I get to qualify as a hawse piper.
And I think that this is a good time to also clarify, what side of the industry you're talking about. In your career, you were on the underway side, on vessels that are actually going someplace, as opposed to the side of the industry that operates primarily on the shore side. So ship and boat building, repair yards, the logistics, and those kinds of things. So what we're talking about today is the underway side of things. Can you talk a little bit about the types of vessels that you operated on, that you worked on?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to really get on a variety of different kinds of vessels. And so I've worked on small passenger cruise vessels. And those would be like overnight vessels that are, people are on board for days or a week at a time. And then I also did small passenger dinner cruising and lunch cruising. So more of like what we would call like a day boat experience. I've worked on private yachts. I've worked doing hydrographic survey on survey ships. I've worked on an ammunition vessel. I've also worked on a tanker vessel, and really high speed catamarans to running being a part of the high adventure program for the Boy Scouts of America in the Bahamas on a sailboat. So my time at sea was very diverse, and I'm very grateful for that. And it did take me all over the world.
That's amazing. Can you share just a thought or two about the importance of mentorship in the industry? I think specifically for young women, the importance of mentoring young women into the industry as they find their way. What do you think about that?
So there's so much conversation around that topic right now, and it's tough. There aren't that many women actively sailing, especially in like officer leadership roles. And the ones that are, tend to kind of be tokened, by their organizations, to be like, here's this, it always seems to be like the same faces over and over again. And um, there can be a lot of issues with people who are like actively sailing, and maybe they're just like, I don't have time to mentor, right? Like I'm barely getting through this, or not barely getting through this, but I've already been through this, and I've already earned that respect, and it was really, really hard. And now I'm at a certain level in my career where I just kind of want to get to the end of this and see what's on the other side. And so there can be reluctance to and hesitance to kind of expose themselves as a mentor. I hope that's making sense, that they just kind of want to smooth sailing, so to speak, and go to that next level. And so I think maybe it's critical, but how do we remove the stigma around it? How do we help those people who are out there now doing that to feel empowered to mentor the next generation, and to know that there's people backing them up when they do mentor. I think too, like when you're giving advice to young people and we're telling them that they need mentorship or to get a mentor, um, the logistics of that can be difficult. And so when you're a young person, you're like, how am I supposed to get connected with this one female captain who's off the coast of Africa half the year? I think it's easy to just say it and then really not understand that the logistics are far more difficult than what people realize.
Yeah, you absolutely hit that, and it is difficult, and I think that also underscores why mentorship is so very important. It's not always easy, but it is extremely important. What would you say to a fellow woman mariner who is reluctant to mentor? What would be your elevator pitch, if you will? And I know I'm putting you on the spot just a little bit here. I don't mean to, but why is it so important to mentor?
I think that having the passion to be the change is what is needed for someone to be a valuable mentor. And being okay with having some focus and attention on you for just a little bit, I think is helpful as well. Because, I remember when I was at sea, I mean, I spent a lot of energy being as invisible as possible. I did not like to stand out. I did not need any more attention on me than I was already getting. And so I think that there's a lot of like programming there where when you're underrepresented and you're the only, to just keep your head down. And so being comfortable with that exposure, I think is a skill that people will need to be good mentors, especially in this day and age of social media and everything else that's out there. You're kind of on blast all the time. And as people are aging maybe out of the industry, they're not as comfortable with that, as they're going to need to be as they mentor this younger generation coming in. And I mean, as people, like I said, age out and retire, we're losing those voices, and we're losing all of that, those knowledge and that history that is so critical and important to the maritime industry. We love tradition, we love history. So much of what we do lies on those foundations of maritime. We're going to be losing all of that, and so these young people aren't going to get it, and that's why it's so important that people just get a little bit more comfortable with sharing their story, being a little bit in the spotlight, being able to take a little bit of negativity or criticism that might come their way, or people objecting, or that's not how it was for me, or that's not how it is. You kind of got to be okay with all of that. But the greater good is so awesome, because you're going to get your story out to that next generation and inspire those young people to come and have amazing careers just like you did.
That is fantastic. And it's the perfect segue to my next question. We all know this work isn't easy. If it were, anybody could do it. So I'd like to know, from your perspective in this work, where do you find your inspiration and your motivation?
So I am, and first of all, yes, Anne, you are correct. The work is hard. It's and I don't like to say you need a tough skin to do anything. Like, you should be able to just live your life. I don't like using that phrase, and so I don't. But you have to be able to see things and have them roll off of you, and be able to address issues in a way that can get all demographics of people, all generations of people to listen. And really, what truly inspires me and motivates me is this incredible industry as a whole. The innovation that is happening globally with shipping, logistics, cruising, just about everything is so amazing. And I'm so proud to be just a tiny part of that. And I want to share that with the rest of the community and the general public, going back to our earlier conversation about getting the word out there, of this industry and the amazing career you can have, and share it with young people, women, and people of color, and LGBTQ, that they are needed. They are needed to even continue this evolution that the industry is going through as a whole, and that they can have amazing careers. And it's going to take all of us to transform the culture, so it's inclusive of all people, because they're critical. They are the critical ones that'll continue on, take us all off into the future. And I want to share that, and that's what motivates me. When someone says, "What do you do? What is this again? How did you get into this?" I'm like, "Okay, do you have 20 minutes? Because I'm about to tell you something awesome, and please share it with your family and friends." So that's really what motivates and inspires me.
That is absolutely fantastic. And so, as you look toward the future, your future, Maritime Inclusion Partners future, in 3, maybe even 5 years, where would you like to be? Where would you like Maritime Inclusion Partners to be? And more importantly, where do you want Jenny Johnson to be?
So, Anne, I love that you are asking this question because I have pretty big plans to diversify Maritime Inclusion Partners and diversify the business, which is, what people advise you to do when you're a business owner. And I want to branch into dinner cruising. So the dream is to offer river cruising, but to also utilize the vessels, hopefully, as training platforms to inspire people to have maritime careers that would not normally be exposed to it. The entire staff on board and ashore would reflect the community of Jacksonville and hopefully be a launching point for amazing careers at sea. So the goal would be to being a part and into the community, bringing dinner cruising, river cruising, but then also utilizing that voice, that platform to expose people to the industry and to give them a place to learn how they can be a mariner.
Well, this is kind of like a hold the presses moment, which is I love. Now, can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, I love the entire concept. It's very exciting. Do you have is that sort of a 3-year plan? Or are you thinking sooner? Are you thinking later?
I mean, everything comes down to money, right? And
Yes.
I definitely do not have the kind of capital that will be needed at this point. It's very interesting how I kind of came to this, and it is very just in the last month or so. I've decided, I had decided, and I'm still doing it. I've decided to uh, get a new issue of my merchant mariner credential. And while I was kind of getting the paperwork together and, you know, credentials now go into continuity automatically when they expire, but they didn't when mine expired. So I'm well past the window to be able to get it back as it is. But the whole point of it was to kind of get myself back on the deck plates to some extent while growing my business, and here locally looking for some day work here and there. And so I started that process, and as I was walking and thinking and monologuing as I do and kind of coming up with ideas, I was thinking, man, I don't really need a whole lot of sea time. Like I wish there was like a dinner boat I could just get on as a deckhand around here like I did back in the Pacific Northwest. And then the next thought in my mind was, why isn't there a dinner boat in Jacksonville, Florida? And so I have been pitching this thought to lots of people within the community, and it is getting rave reviews. And when I thought it all the way through, kind of soup to nuts of how do I tie this into my greater passion of people and the industry and culture. And I thought, okay, no, this is I can use this as a platform to enhance people's experiences with boats and get them out there and use that vessel to help train people at a minimum of just, basic seamanship and understanding what the pointy end is and bring it to the community. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it gets me very, very jazzed. And I'm right now developing some pitches to be able to hopefully get in front of people who have the capital to be able to back the idea.
I absolutely love it. First of all, as a woman, I love the fact that you're looking at this. Secondly, anyone who's familiar with the industry knows this is something that is needed. What a wonderful concept. And I literally wish we had more time. So we're going to have to get you back to discuss this because that is really exciting.
Thank
Really.
you. Thank you. And it's, like I had said before about being the change.
Mhm.
I want to be the example that I didn't have. And I want to create a woman-led maritime company in the United States. And I want to be that change and be that example.
Well, I think you're going to be, I think you already are, and you're definitely going to be leading that change. There's no doubt in my mind about that. That is absolutely phenomenal. I love that entire plan. And as I said a moment ago, I really wish we had more time. We're going to have to do this again. But I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And I want to remind everybody of a couple of things. One, check out our Wave Breaker blog posts at WashingtonMaritimeCareers.org. Jenny's written one for us already, and we'll be writing, I think, a couple of more. And then don't forget to go to Jenny's site, MaritimeInclusionPartners.com, to learn more about her great work and sign up. You can sign up for updates on the site to get news and other information directly from Jenny. Jenny, before we close, any final surprises or thoughts that you would like to share?
No surprises, but tomorrow's a new day, and my brain never seems to stop. Um, but no, just also thank you for reminding people about the mailing. You get on the mailing list off the website, but you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I'm just really honored to be able to have this time with you today and be able to chat and share what we got going on. Really, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, Jenny, thank you so very much. We really appreciate you being with us today. And we're excited to get this podcast out, and we'll be excited to talk with you again very, very soon.